Back to Comicgeddon. As you can see, I didn't come back alone. I came back with an army of mutants. So, as promised, I'm going to do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy review, and it's going to cover all these guys. We have here the original classic vintage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures. We've got the little mini Ninja Turtle figures there based on the classic Ninja Turtles. We got a couple of Nicktoon Turtles here from when they first came out. As you can see, we also have the Turtles based more on the comic book series, which was also kind of cool. And of course, we got some of the supporting cast from the original classic Ninja Turtles. And I'm going to go over all these here. So, back in early 1982, the world was taken by storm by a cartoon series called Masters of the Universe. This was controversial because the cartoon was essentially made to promote the toy line, which was essentially against TV law at the time. But Masters of the Universe broke that rule, and because they did it, we got other shows like G.I. Joe, Transformers. Pretty much any cartoon on nowadays is out to promote some type of product, like a toy or a card game or a video game. So, go through the history. Of course, like I said, we had Transformers, we had G.I. Joe. 1993, we had the Power Rangers, but in 1988, the next big toy line would hit U.S. toy shelves. Move over He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Enter the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Based on the underground independent comic book series, the same name, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a black and white comic book. The cover showed 4 mutated Ninja Turtles with red headbands, which is where we get these guys here. And I'll go over all the figures, all the articulation on these guys and everything as quickly as I can, of course. This hit an interest, big interest, in a children's cartoon, which is really weird because the comic book was extremely violent. Shredder died in the first issue by falling off a building, pretty much like he did in the movie. So when it was decided the animated series was going to happen, they wanted to do away with the red headbands, and because they wanted the kids to be able to recognize the Ninja Turtles and to be able to sell, of course, many variants of the figures. So Raphael got to keep the traditional red. We got Leonardo who got blue. We've got Michelangelo who was lucky enough to get the orange bandana, and then we got Donatello who got purple. Of course, their belts also had their initials on there: R for Raphael, D for Donatello, L for Leonardo, M for Michelangelo. Again, so the kids can decide who is who. The original 10 vintage Turtles was, of course, the 4 main ones. We got Splinter, we got April O'Neil, we've got Shredder, a foot soldier, and of course, Bebop and Rocksteady. Other awesome characters and fan favorite characters would show up, like Casey Jones, Metalhead, and my favorite, the Rat King. Most of my vintage line here, they're the originals. And I say this, they're the originals because the show and Turtles are so popular even to this day. Beginning back for their 25th anniversary, I believe it was Target originally, and then Toys R Us still is bringing out the classic Ninja Turtle figures, used in pretty much the same mold that they used back in the 80s. The weapons are a little flimsier and have been known to break, but for the most part, and there's some paint apps that are different. Like for some reason, the foot soldier's head is a lighter shade of purple than the rest of his body. But it's great to know that the line is still that popular and they're still going to this day. Back in 2003, I don't have any of those figures. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle line was revamped for Fox Kids, uh, and a whole new line of turtle figures and TV show. The TV show was awesome. It's my favorite version because it's closer to the comic books. That show ends. Then we get the Nicktoons Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I liked some of the figures. I didn't get a chance to get Donatello and Michelangelo, but the earlier figures were pretty cool because they didn't have the name, the little initials on the belt. They didn't have the pupils on the eyes, and I really like this Raphael.
And they had 3 toes rather than 2.
Yeah, and I really like this Raphael because take a look. He can actually hold his sai in between his hands, or his fingers rather. So, it's really hard to decide. I mean, what's your favorite line? Mine's always going to be the vintage toy line. Favorite Ninja Turtle animated series is going to be the first reboot. But the figures are always going to be just classic, and they're going to be iconic. So let's go ahead and go over some of these awesome things. I mean, right now this is a massive comparison time, if you will, because we have, as you can see, the classic Raphael standing next to his vintage. We've got Michelangelo over here. I mean, they're all the same shade of green as the classic figs. And we'll go ahead and go over some of the features here on the vintage. The vintage is cool. It's got the heads move from right to left, arms go up and down. The wrists move. Weapons are removable. The legs move. Each turtle came with a removable belt and a spot to place their weapons. Raphael's, of course, goes right there in front. Later on, the turtles would be so many different variant versions of them. They did different wacky action features. They did bring out a line of Ninja Turtle figures that resembled more of the cartoon. There we go. So, these now, I want to go over these real quick. Now, if you're still lucky enough to go to Toys R Us, they still have these. Theirs, I think, actually come with a little comic book. These are really well sculpted. But here's the big problem, and they all have the same mouth. They have the same shell, the same color skin. The only thing different is their weapons. There is absolutely no way to tell these turtles apart. So I've tried keeping their weapons with them at all times. I guess it really doesn't matter, but I'm kind of a stickler. I'm a stickler, Shannon. But their weapons are really cool, and these have some awesome articulation. We got heads on ball joints. They can move up, down, left, right. They can roll. The arms go up and down. They bend at the elbow. Their wrists do not have any articulation. The knees, they go out, they swivel. So, and because of their big feet, I have absolutely no problem standing him up. When I actually, there we go. I have no problem standing him up. So, and they're all like that. So each turtle also does not have a spot for their weapon to store. So they're always in their hands. Some of the weapons are even loose in their hands. It seems to be a problem with a lot of Leonardo figures. The swords just don't grip them tight enough. I learned that I started all the way with the original vintage Leonardo. Speaking of Leo, we've got the 2002, 2003 Ninja Turtles here. Oh, I'm sorry, these are the Nicktoon Turtles. I'm an idiot. I really like the way these look. These articulation on these guys. The legs go forward and backward. Knee joints. They got elbow joints here. The wrists They move, the arms go in and out, up and down, and they do have a spot to store their weapons here. So, and these are some of the more, these figures are actually further, a lot more detailed than they are now. A lot of the turtle figures from Nicktoons aren't really detailed at all, as far as paint details go, which is really sad because there's a lot of awesome sculpts in the figures that would be really great if it was just a little dab of paint here, a little wash here. So, and I already went over the original classic figures, which have the heads move right and left. Let's see if I can grab one here. I got short arms. There we go. So we got the head that moves left and right, arms go up and down. The wrists do not swivel, but the legs do move. Unlike their classic versions, they do not have a spot to store their weapons. Now I notated that a lot of the turtle figures later on, especially the classic ones, had goofy features or other unique things to them. Nothing said this is more than their supporting figure cast. Of course, we have talking about guys like Bebop and Rocksteady. Now, here's something cool about the early original 10-pack turtles. The original line had squishy heads. And I have Bebop here, who is extremely hard to stand. In fact, I probably shouldn't have picked him up. He's not going to stay. Now he wants to hunch over and fall. There we go. Okay. I have a Splinter on the way. Original classic Splinter. He's going to have a squishy head. Of course, we got Rocksteady here. It was always really easy to stand. If you look, he almost looks complete, doesn't he? He's only missing his belt and his dagger. So, if anybody has any extras they want to send me, please do. I'll take them.
2924 North Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Decatur, Illinois.
That's right.
Zip code.
Metalhead, it seems to be a lot of fan favorite because if you look, he's shiny. The cool thing is on the top of his head you see his brain, but if you hold it up to a light, his eyes glow. Let me see if I can actually get this feature to work on camera here. Wait a minute. Okay, so we got him, and I got a light. It's right there. I don't know how well that comes off on camera or not. There we go. So that's kind of cool. And another cool thing about Metalhead, and I don't know, he's missing his backpack and a little radar dish, but he did come with one cool weapon. It was like this mechanical nunchuck, and it doesn't just fit in his hand. It replaces one of his hands, so you can actually remove one of his hands, which pops right off, and then just snap that weapon on, and it goes to the other hand too. And there you go. He has a little weapon. He doesn't do anything. He just looks cool, and he's ready to beat some shredder butt. And then of course that just pops right off. He pops his hand right back on. So, and in the cartoon series, he was created, I believe, by Donatello. So, and he's not wanting to stand again. There we go. Well, now one of my favorites was always the Rat King. And he's one of the figures I had that I really, really wish was complete. All I have is his belt. He's missing his crossbow with the rat on it, and he's missing his grappling hook. But he's still one of my favorite figures, and he's one of the unique figures that has the head swivel, the arms, alright, but you'll note his wrists don't move. Most of the figures' wrists or arms by the elbow twist, his do not. His legs do go up and down, but here's one thing he does do. He twists at the waist. So that's kind of cool. And I'm not sure why Rat King was one of my favorites, and still to this day one of my favorites, but he is. And one of my other favorites, of course, is a lot of fan favorites, Casey Jones. Even appliances have to obey the law. The very Clint Eastwood sounding Casey Jones in the cartoon series was an immediate fan favorite, especially an action figure. Here he is, 100% complete. He has baseball bats there. He also came with a golf club and a backpack here. And the cool thing is you could take all the weapons and they actually could store them right here in the golf bag, which is removable. There's a little peg right here, you pop it off. And there you go. Then he's got his arms and all, you know. I always wondered about his choice of clothes though. Purple sweatpants and green shoes. So, you know, it was the 80s. He always, somebody that I always had issues standing to. Again, I don't know why. Probably because of the backpack on his. See, I had the, I'm gonna put his baseball bats back in his hand because I think they were kind of balancing him out. There we go. Of course, the Turtles weren't without their vehicles. This isn't one of their main vehicles. This is one of like the cheapy $10 deals back in the day. It was a cheap vehicle to buy for your Ninja Turtles if your parents couldn't afford like the Turtle Blimp or the Turtle Van, which I think ran for roughly about 20 bucks. Which nowadays would probably go for like 40 or 50 bucks at a toy store if they came out with it. This isn't complete. There used to be a little spot, like it was like a little can. I think you were supposed to be able to put ooze in and attach to the handlebars, and you actually pulled it and it would shoot out. That's I think the only thing missing on this. It has a little sidecar. You can put your turtles on. The cool thing is the handles are rubber. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not. And they go up and down. And then they're rubber, so they're very flexible. You can, I had all the turtles on here. I've had Rocks or Bebop on here. So, and of course it turns. If you look, it's got little like blades on the side of the wheels here, which was cool. Casey Jones is falling again. Casey Jones needs to lay off the sauce. It was a cool vehicle. This one isn't mine. None of these actually came from my the vintage figures. None of these came from my original action figure line, as I unfortunately sold them all when I was younger. Oh, turtle down.
Splinter down.
Splinter down? Please tell me he's still holding his weapon.
Is.
Groovy. So, there. Okay. All in all, the vintage line is just classic. It's, you know, it's one of a kind. I want to say it's one of a kind. I mean, you look at them, you see them, you reminisce. If you were a child of that age. And they had so many different figures. They had a figure for everything. The figures from comic books, figures from the cartoon series. I give it 10 for the vintage. These guys here, based on the original comic book series, I'd love to give them a 10, but it would have been nice if there was some type of something to indicate who was who, a different mouth sculpt maybe on the head, maybe the bandana. Well, the bandanas are a little different, I can see. Not much though. Just something to indicate who was who other than the weapons they came with. But the articulation is great. They came with these little collector cards, which I left at home. So I'll give those like an 8. Then we got the Nick Turtle, these two little bit turtles. I really liked articulation and everything. 8. And of course I already reviewed and rated the classic mini turtles. So all in all, go on eBay, relive your childhood. You can get turtles anywhere from mostly about $20 on up, depending on what you're looking for completed wise. So the Nick Turtle figures are available right now at all stores: Walmart, Toys R Us, Target. Go look for them. And these guys, like I said, they still have some of the comic book version Mirage Turtles at Toys R Us. I find them, and some of them actually come with comic books. Mine didn't. I bought mine at Walmart. Not that cool. So, so yeah. Hope I brought back some memories. Good hunting.